You're listening to The Ride to Work with Pastor Fred. Fuel for your faith before you clock in. Enjoy the ride.
Hello, and thank you so very much for joining us for The Ride to Work today. Listen, we are on the other kind of grief week. That's what the series is entitled this week. The other kind, should I say, of grief. And we're just basically talking about how uh, there are certain things that people grieve that not necessarily has to do with a funeral or a physical death. Uh, so we want to speak on that because I realize something that there's a lot of depressed people that are out there, and there's different reasons as to why they're in this state. There's different situations or uh, tragedies or traumas or something that didn't end in as far as a physical removal of a person as far as from this earth, but maybe from their life. And we want to talk about that because we want to make sure that we're able to dive into things that uh, we realize that a lot of people deal with. And I get it. It may be, something that you're good. You don't have this issue. You don't have this problem. So this ride, this episode might not be for everybody, but you know what? It's for somebody. It's for somebody because God led me to do this. So whomever that individual or those individuals are that this is for, I pray that you are listening, and I pray that we say something that aids you in your path to healing from this other kind of grief. But uh, I realize it's a very uncomfortable conversation to have because how do you really grieve someone who's still alive? And see, we're dealing with, um, as I told you yesterday, we're talking about David and his son Absalom. And I know there are situations out there between mothers and daughters, fathers and son. Man, we just gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it because this is a very personal thing, even for myself. So that's why I believe God has led me in this direction. But it can possibly get to be a very uncomfortable conversation because, like I said, how do you grieve somebody that's still alive, that's still here? I mean, what do you do when they're still breathing? They're still posting on social media. They're still, let's say, laughing with other people, you know, but they're no longer a part of your life. Think about that. I mean, because there's some relationships that it didn't end with a funeral. It ended with just silence. It ended with betrayal. It ended with distance. It ended with just disappointment. And uh, because nobody died, people expect you to just move on, right? But I think today, I mean, as we go into this today, and hopefully on your way, you're giving me these few minutes to just speak into your hearing. I think we'll discover, you know what, that the Bible, really has something to say about that kind of grief too. It does. And I mean, and like I said, our scripture focuses on is 2 Samuel 18:33, and I want to read the scripture because it's from David. And as I said, this very tragic relationship situation with his son Absalom. But it says, "Oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom," it says, "Would God I had died instead of you." Now he's talking about at that point the demise of his son Absalom in the physical sense, but we're going to go through as far as looking at their relationship and let's see if we can draw some parallels, should I say, concerning things that you may be dealing with or you may have dealt with or going through or have gone through. I mean, because I know that one of the greatest misconceptions as we begin this about grief is that it only follows death. And that's not true. It doesn't. Because sometimes, you grieve um, a child who no longer speaks to you, huh? Or a child that just can't get it right, can't stay, on that straight and narrow. Sometimes you grieve a friend who became a stranger for some reason, a marriage that ended while both people they're still alive and kicking, but it just ended. A brother or a sister that just stopped calling, stopped reaching out. It can even be a church family that became like a painful memory. We always talk about church hurt. Huh? It can even be a parent. Because I understand. I mean, there's some young folk that may be listening. It could be a parent who, I mean, they're physically present, but they're emotionally just not there for you. Huh? And you know what? When those types of losses happen, they don't come with sympathy cards. Nobody's sending flowers because your best friend walked away. Ain't nobody sending you no flowers for that. Nobody's giving you bereavement leave because your marriage is over. I mean, we want to just talk this morning. Ain't nobody checking on you because your son or your daughter won't answer your phone calls. But the pain of it, the grief of it, it's really real. If you think about it's really real. And David, as we move into this, he understood that kind of pain. David wasn't just a king, he was a father whose son became his enemy. Think about that. I mean, imagine how heartbroken he must have been. I mean, that little boy he used to hold in his arms, now wanted his throne. The very son that he prayed over, and prayed for, plotted against him. Huh? Think about that for a moment because I know, and maybe some of you have experienced this, that sometimes the deepest wounds, they're not inflicted by your enemies, they're inflicted by people you once loved and thought loved you. Huh? Because right out the box, the first thing I need you to understand is look, some relationships die before people do. We just want to talk about it this morning. Absalom didn't his son didn't suddenly rebel against David. That's not what happened. Slowly, yet slowly, it just began to deteriorate. There was hurt involved. There was silence involved. There was bitterness. There was distance that came about until look, they were in the same world, but they didn't share the same heart anymore. They didn't. And can I share something with you about that? Not every relationship ends in an argument. Sometimes they just slowly just fade away. They just erode over time. Fewer conversations, a missed phone call becomes like months of silence. One disappointment creates, man, some permanent distance. Just one disappointment, one bad moment. You see, some people, hear me when I say this. They'll leave your life long before they leave your contact list. You still got them in there, but they've been gone. They've been gone. They've been gone. We've been trying to resurrect relationships that really quietly died years ago. You trying to bring it back. It's gone. It's gone. It just slowly deteriorated. Hmm? Think about it. Second thing I need you to get, listen, because I want to make it clear. I want to make it clear because man, this thing is, like I said, it's personal to me. Love don't always prevent loss. It doesn't. David loved his son Absalom. He did. He loved him, but love alone couldn't heal what pride refused to just give up or surrender to. And that's painful. That is, because a lot of us believe if I love them enough, if I pray enough, if I sacrifice enough, then everything will work out. Not always. I'm sorry. Not always. God gives people the freedom to choose. You do know that, right? He gives you the freedom to choose. He does. And even when their choices break our hearts, it's still their choice. It is. I mean, because I'll say it like this: one of the hardest lessons in life, I think, one of the hardest. I said one of the hardest uh, is like accepting that you can't force someone to value what they have in you. Think about what I just said. Now, that's a hard lesson. That is, you can't force somebody to value what they have in you. You can't. You know, you may feel and you may know that you have so much to offer, that you can be so beneficial, but they just don't value that. And you can't make nobody see that if they don't want to. I mean, love is powerful. It is. Love is powerful, but it can't make somebody choose what they've already decided to just leave or abandon. It can't make them do it. And that's not failure, that's just reality. Plainly put, that's just real. That's just the way it goes. You know how sometimes y'all say it is what it is? That's just reality. It is. Things don't always work out because you love somebody, because you pour into somebody. Sometimes you get majorly disappointed because of what you thought or expected because of what you did. No, it don't always work that way. I'm sorry to say that, but it doesn't. Last thing I need you to understand, listen, and this is pretty much the crust of it, because David was being chased. David, his kingdom was being threatened. His life was being threatened. He actually had to flee from his own son. He had to run away, take him, his family, other children, and flee from his own son because his son declared himself the king, and it couldn't be two kings in the same land. Think about that. So what I need you to know, and this is the last thing, you've got to learn to release what you cannot repair. You have to. David cried, he mourned, he loved. Yes, he did. But he could not change his son's heart. He couldn't. And there comes a moment, listen to what I'm saying, there comes a moment when healing requires release. It does. And it's not because you stop loving. No, it's not because you stop loving. It's because you stop trying to control. That's why. Because some people, some of you out there, and I know it to be true, you can't relationships. God done already told you to surrender. He done already told you to, man, let it go. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. You trying to fix people and you're exhausting yourself in trying to do that. Because you're trying to fix people who don't want to be fixed. You trying to save people who don't want to be saved. Think about it. I know I'm talking to somebody. You trying to hold it all together. You trying to hold it together. What really, in actuality, it takes two people to build together. Hmm? But you trying to hold it together. And you're exhausting yourself. Huh? One thing that I have learned, and I learned this personally That's why I can speak it as clearly as I can right now. Look, healing begins when you stop accepting responsibility for decisions that other people make. It's not your decision to make. It wasn't. You didn't make that decision, but you trying to accept responsibility for it. You know what? Maybe it wasn't your fault. You know, when people say that old thing, as far as when I looked at shows and stuff where they have in relationships and they break up or something like that. Because this just ain't about breakups, like as far as man and woman relationships, things like that. It could be friendships, it could be siblings, it could be familial, different things like that. But you know, when they say, you know, it's not you, it's me, you know what? Maybe it is them. Maybe it isn't you. Let them have that. And you walk away with your head held high, knowing that it's not my fault. It wasn't me. Just say it like that. It wasn't me. That's when healing begins. Stop accepting blame for something that a decision you never even made. Stop doing that. It wasn't yours to make. It wasn't yours to make. But listen, let me give you this, and we're done. We're done. Oh man, there's so much I can say to this, but I don't have the time. But the beautiful thing about it is, even though David lost his son, God didn't abandon David. Because you got to understand, Absalom grew bitter at David because of the whole situation that we discussed earlier about Tamar. Because you know Tamar went to live with her other brother, Absalom. And because of David's lack of action in handling the situation, why his sister and how his sister was violated, his own daughter, as well, should I say, David, Absalom grew bitter at his father. He began to detest David. He began to hold him in contempt because of David's lack of action. But God didn't abandon David. He didn't. And sometimes we get so consumed by who left, by who don't speak to us, who don't talk to us anymore, who don't deal with us anymore, who don't have kind words for us anymore. We'll see them here, we'll see them there, and they just walk on by. And that bothers you. But sometimes we become so consumed by who left that we overlook who stayed. God remained faithful. You got some friends out there that still remain loyal to you. Think about it. Your purpose, it remained intact. It did. See, because the story, David's story, should I say, it didn't end with relational loss, and neither does yours. I hope you're hearing me this morning. People may leave, but God don't. That's about as plain and as clear as I can say it. Relationships may fail, God don't. You may be disappointed by love. A love may disappoint you, but God don't disappoint. It doesn't. He doesn't, should I say. Every autumn, a tree, it'll lose leaves. If you didn't understand the season, you think the tree was dying. But listen, that tree ain't dying. It's preparing. And sometimes, hear me when I say this, and I'm done. God allows relationships to fall away, and it's not because your life is ending. It's because he's making room for a healthier season. Please think about that. Don't confuse pruning with punishment. Sometimes, listen, what falls away couldn't go where God is taking you. Please remember that. So maybe today your grief isn't over somebody who died. Maybe it's over somebody who changed, somebody who stopped calling, somebody who walked away, somebody who betrayed your trust, somebody you still love, but you don't even know them anymore. So just understand, grieve it, give it to God, learn from it, but don't hold your future around somebody else's decision to leave. Hear me when I say it. God bless you, God keep you. We'll be riding again tomorrow.